Hi. Our struggle today comes from a member of the Art of Adulting on Facebook. She's wondering how to help my daughter with self determination when she's determined to do nothing. Sounds like this mom is experiencing a lot of resistance from her daughter about changing anything in her life. Let's tackle this one today. Keeping in mind, of course, that what we're trying to do is encourage our autistic young adults, our autistic high school graduates, to practice adulting, the set of mental tools that help us manage our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions so that we can achieve goals set by us for us. Adulting is pretty much a synonym for self advocacy, and it's truly what we want for our kids when we're gone. We want them to be able to choose what they want in each part of their life, figure out what their next step is, and maybe who they need to recruit to help them in their achieving those actions. That's what I want to be able to do is go to sleep, when my maker comes and knowing that I've done everything I can so that they can do well on their own, self advocating. Now, how do we do that? Well, we have to make the transition from being the director of their life to the advisor, to the coach of their life. And we do that by acting in these three ways and staying in that lane. We encourage them, we warn them, and we're consulted by them. And this, interestingly enough, is the triad of responsibilities of Her Majesty the Queen of England. She, if you'll notice, doesn't legislate action, but she sure knows a lot about what's going on in that country and has observed quite a bit over her reign. And so she can encourage, warn, and be consulted by the members of the British government to give her best shot as to what they should be on the lookout for. So sometimes when it's a little frustrating, I think of putting my crown on. And let's take a minute to understand what is going on with our autistic young adults. This word neuroception describes what goes on when we are perceiving safety, danger, or life threat. And this happens often with our kids. Something's happening in their inner world, some kind of emotion is coming up, or something's happening in their outer world, or something's happening between them and another person that can trigger that fear that is ever present and blocks quite a bit of our learning. It's really hard to learn when we're trying to survive. So that protection instinct is what we're trying to get a handle on and understand better what are the triggers for our kids, for them to hide and refuse and resist any future actions. What are they expecting might happen? And what in their past maybe has created that expectation, that lack of confidence that they can achieve what they want. Another way to look at it is it's our nervous system listening to what's happening inside our bodies. So we're scanning all the time, and if we're tensing up automatically before even we're conscious of it, that's what we want to pay attention to. We want to pay attention to those messages, and that often leads to protection, self-protection, because it's, oh my gosh, they're asking more of me than I'm comfortable doing. And this has happened so often to me that I'm going to go right back into the cave and decide not to do anything. What we want to do is provide that sense of safety for our autistic young adults so that they can connect with us. They have to feel safe before they'll reach out and connect with us. Because when they sense a threat, it's gonna, go back to protection. And we need to create that sense of safety with our autistic young adults. So, okay, how do we do that? How do we connect ourselves better to our autistic young adult? And I want to suggest that we have to start with ourselves first, because it sounded like when I listened to the words that our mom suggested, she's getting a little frustrated. This is like things are not going the way she'd hoped they would. In fact, she's probably really worried about how things are going to turn out for her daughter and for her. So let's take the time to notice what's happening inside of us as well. And in fact, I suggest that we really do find the feeling, name it. We don't have to be poets. We could just call it, I'm really uncomfortable. I'm really uncomfortable. And it's like a knot inside of my chest, or it's a feels like a band is around my head, or my shoulders are tight, or my stomach is in a roar, my intestinal tract is just, clenched. Um, where is it in our bodies? And if we can relax into that feeling, we can notice it and kind of relax into it and describe it to ourselves. Wow, that felt like a bunch of knots in my lower body, or my neck got all stiff, or my head is just, we can describe what that looks like if we, as if we were describing it to somebody that we really felt safe with. It's this, it's purple and it's all knotted up and it's tight and it just keeps tugging on what's happening inside of me. Somehow describe it, and then okay, if that's what's going on, I'm going to just be with it. I'm going to relax into it. I'm, I'm, I'm aware that I'm physically safe right now, so I can experience this feeling that's in my body. And I notice that it's caused by my thought, like, is this ever going to get it? This is never going to, she's never going to get anywhere if she doesn't do something. I mean, I can imagine that thought would go across my mind if I were in this position where I had a daughter who was determined not to do anything. And I've had my kids have been often determined not to do anything. So I get where this mom's coming from. And if we just let ourselves kind of feel all those feelings, then we can get to more of a neutral place for ourselves. And then if we can sort of notice what are those thoughts that keep coming up. This is she's never going to get anywhere if she doesn't do something. Here we go again. Yuck. Any of those thoughts, we can scribe them, if you can write them down, and we can figure out what part of our life, what part of ourselves is creating those thoughts. Oh, it's my trying to be protective myself coming out. I don't want to be evaluated as someone who's not a good parent. I don't want to be evaluated as someone who didn't teach my kids what they needed to know in order to survive without me. Um, I'm really concerned that I'm not going to like how this all turns out. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts in there that we can get our arms around, and then we can decide to be compassionate and kind with ourselves first. Like, yeah, this is a more challenging road to go down than we expected when we had our kids. Though I'm not sure that all parenting isn't kind of challenging, I do believe that having a child with an autistic brain presents us with more confusing and heart wrenching challenges than I see my peers go through. I mean, I see a lot of moms who are doing, at least from the outside, it seems like they're doing fine. But, you know, maybe that's just the Facebook version of their life, and maybe they're having some difficulties. Fact is, I think we all do. Fact is, when we decide to engage in close relationships with the people that we love, a conflict is going to come up. It's very, it's very normal. It's to be expected. And in fact, if we look at it as a hint of what's going on for both of us, then maybe we can make progress together on it. It's worth considering that these hardships just might be the fuel that we need to create a stronger, better relationship when we're at the end of it. Problem solving together is really one of the ways to create stronger bonds. So maybe if we look at it as, well, it's okay. I can do this. I can do this. And then when we're trying to connect better with our high school graduate, we want to make sure that we reflect when we're listening to them. You know what? I know sometimes this is really difficult because, like, I'm already hijacked myself. So sometimes when we're hijacked ourselves, we just need to be honest and say, hey, look, I'm really uncomfortable right now. I'm going to need a couple of breaths in between now and the next things that come out of my mouth. Can you just give me, I just need this space to just kind of get myself recentered. And I'll be right back with you after I've taken, 3 deep breaths or counted backwards from 10 or let the dog out or gone to the bathroom or whatever it is that really is going to help us get to a better place for ourselves. Maybe that's what we need to say to our kids sometimes. It's like, time for me to just take a quick potty break. I'll be right back with you. The whole idea is not to say you are making me angry and give them responsibility for the way that we're reacting. What we want to do is say we own where we are right now and we just need a break, right? And then when we come back, we'll be in a better position to reflectively listen. It seems like you're really upset because I'm asking you to do something that you don't want to do. And then we just keep reflecting until some of their thoughts get heard. And that's how we help them feel seen and safe and soothed in our presence so that we have a secure, strong bond with them and can move these things forward. Yeah, there just isn't a magic wand that any of us can wave that's going to make this whole process easier. I'm not sure we'd really want one because it's the working through the difficulties that bind us together and that up level our own skills to be the kind of mom that we really want to show up behaving like. Because we never really meant to be a witch. We're looking for the joy in our parenting. And we can find it. It's just sometimes we have to go through some really uncomfortable times like this when you're trying to get some movement and it's not happening. So now what do we do? We're not going to be perfect at all in these skills. We're going to make mistakes, but if we keep trying, we will make progress. I mean, I've had to recently apologize for my own reaction to something that was said and the disconnection that happened with one of my autistic young adults. I didn't expect it. I mean, what happened was the words that they said kicked a bruise in me. It made me think of some thoughts that had nothing to do with them, had everything to do with the way that I was processing what was happening. It had literally had nothing to do with them, but I haven't really dealt with some of the difficulties that I've had in my life, and I just watched myself react, and I was like, what was that? So I'm working through, what caused that and trying to become more compassionate with myself and all the parts of myself that are there because of all of my experiences in life and make more friends with some of those things that have been difficult for me. So we'll talk more about that in another video, but just know that this isn't always that you don't have to be the perfect mom, that our expectation is that all we can do is make progress, not perfection. So, you know what I'm going to suggest, and that's the collaborative, proactive problem solving process that Dr. Russ Green advocates on his website, Lives in the Balance, where we agree on the facts together, then we listen to their steer maps, and that's the empathy step. We want to make sure that they feel seen and soothed and safe in our presence so that they are secure and their brain has stopped sending those alarm bells that disconnect us. And then we share our steer map so that our autistic young adults start to learn how to take time to listen to our perspective. It's that perspective taking that is a skill that has definitely lagged, and it takes time to build the, you know, the skill of doing that, of listening enough to hear the other person's perspective without interrupting. That's a quite an achievement when we can get our autistic young adults to actually hear us all the way through. Doesn't happen all the time, but when it does in my house, it's like victory, ah, victory. So I can't recommend this process enough because it starts to build the trust between us and our autistic loved ones who we just, love every part of them, even, especially the difficult parts, because it's those difficult parts that help us learn and grow together. And I know that sounds cheesy and woo woo, but I got to tell you, I'm starting to learn how to see those things as gifts, those difficult times as gifts, because then I know we're right on the path to make some progress together. I'm making progress noticing what triggers me, and they're making progress noticing what triggers them and what skills they need to employ. And the two of us together, and in my case, the many of us together, can move forward together and create those connections that really matter most. Please take a moment if you want to go to the my blog to see the transcript of this. It's www.lindsay.davison.com/blog. You'll see lots of other videos where I address the struggles that we moms face as the leaders of our families and as we love our autistic children for the rest of our runway. Bye for now.